Trump's Ukraine minerals deal makes the UK boots on the ground more likely. Gonna read into this more from the iPaper, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from iPaper with the headline that Trump's Ukraine minerals deal makes UK boots on the ground more likely. Hopes of a wider peace deal with Russia's rise in number 10 and Whitehall, with sources saying a British land force in Ukraine is still a viable option. Guys, while you're here, make sure you hit that like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. The minerals deal is a very fascinating one. It's very interesting. That they've actually agreed a deal here. I think that this actually really does perhaps maybe cozies America a bit more back into alignment towards supporting Ukraine, and I really hope so. I think that Zelensky meeting Trump at the Vatican during the Pope's funeral really did help their case. That private one-to-one meeting with no officials around him, no other people. I think that really did help his situation and his position on the situation. That is for sure. And I do hope that it steers this Trump administration into a bit more anti-Russian rather than more pro-Russian. That can all completely change by the time you guys see this video. It's entirely possible. I'd like to think so anyway. But I'm in agreement with so many other people. This war needs to end. It needs to end. Too many people are suffering. Too many people are dying. Too many Ukrainian citizens on a daily basis are dying at the hands of Russian artillery fire and drone strikes on a daily basis into many cities and towns and villages. They're reported on a daily basis from the Kyiv Independent, as well as other numerous outlets as well. Many Russian soldiers dying needlessly as a result of this. Many Ukrainian forces dying to protect their country, their lands from Russia as well. All this bloodshed is completely unnecessary because it's by one man who wants to bring back the Soviet Union, who wants to claim territory that his country has no right to claim, who annexed Crimea in 2014 when it belongs to Ukraine. These lands belong to Ukraine, and Russia have taken them from them. There's no justification for what Russia are doing, and we want to ensure that America are continuing to apply the same pressure that the Europe and the rest of the Western world is doing on Russia. But there is a feeling that because Trump is an admirer of Putin, that he may still try to lighten things up as well. Now, as for boots on the ground, I know there are many people skeptical about the possibility of British troops on the ground, and many people don't want boots on the ground. I personally think it should be UN peacekeepers or United Nations forces, or multiple of the choices of different countries on the ground, rather than just British forces. I know that France's Macron has spoken about this as well, but he may not even be in power if that ever comes to fruition, because he's not gonna be in power in the future anyway. So there's a chance of France actually doing that. I don't know. Very skeptical of it. So, but obviously nobody wants to see British forces' lives being put at risk here. But if putting British troops on the ground there does maintain peace, then it's a good thing. That will be a good thing. And I know some people will also say, but Regan as well, we don't even have enough soldiers to protect our own land. You're right. We only have about 57,000 troops, I think, is what we have in total. And the number is continuing to decline because I've already said numerous occasions when we talk about our own British troop numbers, is that the government, both this government and previous governments, have done a crap job of keeping the numbers up, of retaining a positive recruitment drive to drive people into the armed forces. Until that's dealt with, we're always going to have the troop numbers are going to continue to dwindle, unfortunately. So let's read more into this. So Britain is more likely to put boots on the ground as part of a peacekeeping force in Ukraine, owing to the minerals deal struck between Washington and Kyiv, it is understood. Hopes of a wider peace deal with Russia have risen in Downing Street and Whitehall after Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky agreed to the partnership to share the benefits of Ukraine's natural resources. While there is no explicit US security guarantees as part of the minerals deal, Keir Starmer spokesperson said the agreement was an important milestone for Americans' interest in the country. Whitehall sources said the minerals deal and a future peace deal would be mutual, reinforcing that the US president now has a greater interest in protecting Ukraine. French and British military planners are continuing to work on arrangements for peacekeeping in Ukraine if and when a peace deal is struck. Despite reports last month that the UK is backing away from fulfilling Starmer's pledge to put boots on the ground, sources said a land reassurance force remains a viable option alongside protection of Ukraine's skies and seas and training the country's troops. With the natural resources agreement making a peace deal more likely, greater US interest in Ukraine would fuel the prospects of international peacekeeping on the ground. In a sign of Washington's rekindled interest, Trump approved £50 million in military aid to Kyiv shortly before the minerals deal was struck. A Whitehall source says the more the US feels a sense of unity with the Ukrainians, a sense of shared objective. It is a guarantee of sorts and certainly something I think the US would want to protect. Trump wants to protect this deal, and that is good. The minerals deal and the wider peace deal, when it comes, are mutually reinforcing, as the deal on minerals would be jeopardizing in the event of a peace deal falling apart, and that is an important guarantee. Remember, America securing a peace deal for the benefit of Ukraine and Russia, that's good publicity for Trump. And what does Trump like? Good publicity, because he's getting a lot of bad publicity. He gets this. This is good publicity. This would be good publicity for him. And I personally don't care if Donald Trump takes credit for this. I honestly don't, because if it stops the fighting between Ukraine and Russia, if he can secure that, I honestly don't care, because less people are no longer dying in that perspective. So the UK government sees the language in the US statement on the minerals deal, including the description of a full-scale invasion by Russia, as a positive sign that Washington is hardening its stance towards Moscow. The Prime Minister's official spokesperson said, "We obviously work on the steps taken by the US and Ukraine to strike an economic partnership." The Ukrainian Foreign Minister said it is an important milestone. Asked whether the PM was heartened by the mention of full-scale invasion, the spokesperson added, "I think that's very important. You know, we've always been very clear that when the fault in this illegal invasion lies, and the fact that this war could come to an end today, President Putin rolls back his troops." Operational military planning inside the British and French-led coalition of the willing has been stepped up over the last couple of weeks. Planning is going ahead in 4 areas referred to as safe skies, safe seas, land action or reassurance forces, and regeneration of Ukraine's armed forces through training. However, it is understood that the last of these is seen as the most important to prevent a fresh Russian invasion in the future. Defence insiders have told the iPaper that France has been happy to send a reassurance force to Ukraine without a US backstop, but the UK has insisted that such a security guarantee must be in place. However, Whitehall sources insisted that there is no split between the UK and France, and that representatives from both countries were working closely together on peacekeeping plans. Yeah, they just have a difference of opinions on it, but it's not like they have there's a split there in terms of relationship. With hopes of rising of a peace deal, the iPaper has been told that the long-awaited strategic defence review could be published as early as next week, as Starmer prepares to boost European security against Russia. Insiders say the findings of the 10-month-long review, which has taken a critical look at the UK's military capabilities, have been signed off by the Prime Minister, and publication is imminent. So it could be out by the time you guys see this video. The Ministry of Defence said it did not recognise the timing of next week. However, there is mounting speculation in Whitehall that Starmer wants to use the review to frame a new push for European security and prepare the ground for a peace deal in Ukraine. He will be at the centre of 3 major defence summits over the next 7 weeks, starting with the Joint Expeditionary Forces leaders gathering in Oslo next week. This will be followed by the UK-EU meeting in London on May the 19th, when it is expected that Britain and Europe will seal a new defence and security pact, and at the NATO summit in the Netherlands from the 24th to the 26th of June. Experts have warned that there may still be problems with Russia accepting a multinational peacekeeping force, and that there are risks associated with providing air cover for Ukraine. Ed Arnold, a senior fellow at defence think tank Ruski, said, "I think actually air power in some way is more risky than boots on the ground, because if you have boots on the ground, they're more likely to be in the west of Ukraine that doing sort of training style mission set around Lviv. The Russians would know where they are at one time, and you would think that we probably don't want to put any combat operations in that sort of area, in case we sort of accidentally or wound European troops. As soon as you introduce air cover, especially over Ukraine, then the chances of miscalculation or escalation on air defense units accidentally downing a plane, that increases quite dramatically." An MOD spokesperson has said, "Advanced operational planning within the coalition of the willing remains ongoing for options across land, sea and air, and to regenerate the Ukrainian armed forces. In the meantime, we continue to support efforts for peace while stepping up the military support for Ukraine as Putin's illegal invasion continues. This government is delivering for defence with an extra $5 billion committed for next year. The bold first steps to our path to 2.5% in 2027, with an ambition to reach 3% in the next Parliament. Yeah, the government obviously wants to increase its defence spending, and we know that they've cut foreign aid as well in order to meet that, to try and meet that funding gap as well, which I think is disgraceful that we've cut in foreign aid with us. I do obviously welcome that that there seems to be a closer relationship, feels perhaps maybe something is coming here, but between Trump's administration and Ukraine. But let's remind ourselves, this is Donald Trump. This is a known liar. This is a guy that can U-turn and he can change things at a drop of a hat. People have to remember that. This is not somebody that is always going to stick to things. So we should be taking everything from this Trump administration, in particular, with a great deal of a pinch of salt. I really cannot stress that enough. It's really, really important that Europe steps up its defense and its weapons and arms and stops relying on US armed forces and US weaponry so that we're able to protect ourselves, not just Europe, but the UK as well. We need to head more in that direction, especially with the current situation that's happening in the US right now of its economy and whatnot. Well, what do you guys think? What do you guys make of this minerals deal that has been signed? What do you make of the relationship between the Trump administration and Ukraine, and UK and France and other parts into this? Do let me know your thoughts on all of this down in the comments section below. Now, if you found this video interesting, informative, or helpful in any way to you, hit that like button, share us across social media, subscribe if you haven't already. Do check out the Rumble and Patreon content for exclusives on those platforms. And if you want to financially support me and the work that I do here, you can hit that join button down below to become a YouTube member for as little as 99p. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.